My process is like kind of simultaneously about having a form to play around in, but also having an intention, how intention and spontaneity kind of come together to create something. I'm an image-based painter. I work with what I see, whether it's through my own visual lens or what I see in other painters' work or what I see in objects, the landscape, figuration, those three subject genres, and I reinterpret that with an awareness of how those things look, but like wanting to create a dissonance from how the actuality of it, and so it involves an abstraction, but it still has the attitude of the original image. For a long time, it was an investigated landscape as a painter, particularly this landscape where we are on the Outer Cape. And then I kind of overhauled things, and my process came more about all of those subject genres and that image-based painting and using alternative materials and surfaces and bringing in notions of sculpture, performance, photography into my repertoire as a painter. And so there's been a shift, but there's also been a connection to that original painting that I started. One of the most recent important breakthroughs was a piece called Drawing Court. And at the time, I was really in question of why we as painters and drawers and photographers were painting on this rectilinear square restraint surface. It's a pictorial device. We paint pictures. And, you know, I thought about it historically, like if you go back to before the invention of photography in the mid-19th century, you know, this was the correct format for painting a portrait, for reinterpreting a landscape or a historical landscape. It's logical that that was on this square rectilinear surface. And then photography comes into play, and then that format is continued in photographic format. But then, like more recently, there's been painters sort of in question of that. I'd say like in the past 50 years. Does painting have to be on a square surface, a rectilinear surface? So I was really like in question of this, and I decided I really wanted to overhaul my painting. I didn't really want to be just a landscape painter anymore, just a figurative painter working in oil paint. And that was all important to me, but I wanted to see what else I could do and have some interdisciplinary action in my work. So I cleared my studio and I decided to do an installation performance that had nothing, that I had no intention of showing, exhibiting. It was just really for myself and maybe a small audience. And I cleared the studio and I dipped a basketball in a very viscous block printing ink. And after I dribbled out the format of a basketball court, you know, the key lines, the foul line, and then I dribbled and shot the basketball on the wall to draw out the illusion of a net and a hoop and a backboard and a pole. Before I was a visual artist, when I was young, I was an athlete, and basketball was a big sport, and it was simultaneously enjoyable, but also kind of like culturally punitive growing up in the Midwest in the 80s and 90s. And this kind of like team sport, conventional, you know, goal to win, and it really wasn't for me as someone who, as a solo studio practitioner who likes to spend a lot of time alone. And so I was trying to like go back to this sport when I was really young that I was really into, and compare the physicality of painting and drawing with sports. And like drawing is a lot about eye-hand coordination, for me at least, like really how my eye and my hand are in relationship to each other when I'm looking for image or when I'm trying to reinterpret image. And so by doing this installation piece, which was temporal, it was eventually painted over and it doesn't exist anymore except in photo documentation, I really extended out this idea of painting for myself, that it didn't have to exist in this pictorial format that I had been working on. And it was a breakthrough in that it incorporated sculpture, photography, drawing, painting, performance in this interdisciplinary action that I wanted to explore, to open up how I thought about painting.